Welcome to a very special edition of Right From a Kickoff podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about the Relegation Special. Now, this is very big for Joe and I. You right, Joe?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Well, I'm good in general, not in football terms.
100%. Both our teams are down there. So, out of 5 teams, let's run through it, shall we? So, currently, Leicester in 16th place with 30 points. Leeds are also have 30 points, but we're in 17th on goal difference. Leeds have played one game more. Forest are in 18th, just in the relegation zone, with again 30 points. Everton are in 19th with 29 points, and Southampton are in last place with 24th place. So I think we can already confirm, unless a miracle happens for Southampton, that Southampton are down, aren't they?
Yes, they are. I mean, yes, they are, and no, they're not. I think realistically for them, if I'm a Southampton fan, I am saying today is last chance saloon to give us a chance.
Yeah,
I think if and I know we had a schedule for this, but I'm just going to jump straight into it, and we'll talk about it a bit more later. But I think if Southampton can somehow get a win at Forest, I think they're still clinging on to it. But realistically, I think the common sense of it all, you would say that Southampton are gone, wouldn't you?
Yeah, with only 4 games remaining for them, it's not looking likely, is it? Well, that's why tonight's going to be one of the biggest games of the season for both Forest and Southampton, because I think if Forest don't win, then I think you can say where it's going to stand with our remaining fixtures of Arsenal, Chelsea, and last game of the season, Crystal Palace. I would expect need 4 points at an absolute minimum out of those 4 games. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think most teams will be looking at that. I think Leeds will be thinking they need at least 4 points. Leicester will be thinking they need at least 4 points, and Forest definitely will probably. I think Forest will need at least 5. If I'm going to be honest with you, just because of their poor goal difference.
Yeah, exactly. It's that one, especially with Leeds yesterday only losing 2-1 to Man City. I wanted a big result for Man City, but that didn't really materialise with the missed chances from Haaland.
It didn't. But I think at this stage of the season, at least it's another L for Leeds in the column. At least they didn't get a draw or something like that. I think with games fast running out, I think the fact that Leeds got an L, regardless of how minimal it was, at least it was an L column result. I think that was still massive for both Forest and Leicester, because now we go in to what you'd argue as 2 winnable games on paper. Again, I think Leicester probably have the more difficult game out of the two if you look at it on paper, especially being away. But I think you'd still think as a Leicester fan that we can still get a result there and possibly get a win.
It's weird for Leicester because I think if you look on form, Leicester are probably in the best form out of all of the bottom 5 in the last few games. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would, but realistically, it sounds really weird to say, but you look at the way we played against Everton on a week ago today against Everton, and quite frankly, I was coming out of that game with, like, even though we missed a penalty to go 3-1 up, I did feel like Everton made more of a fist of it, and if it hadn't been for a stonker of a performance from Everson, I think we might have lost that game.
Yeah, he made some absolute world-class saves, which is ironic because at the start of the season we were worried about the goalkeeping situation for Leicester, but it puts question marks why he wasn't starting before, why Ward was in goal prior to him.
Right, yeah. If you don't mind, we'll go into Leicester now, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So obviously Brendan Rodgers has been sacked, hasn't he? Dean Smith is now the manager with his 2 right-hand men in John Terry and Craig Shakespeare. Funnily enough, obviously Craig Shakespeare's got a massive affiliation with Leicester, being the previous manager and also the previous assistant manager to Nigel Pearson. I just think that realistically, we've got ourselves into this situation, and what I'm finding at this point is actually what might have cost us is Brendan Rodgers' ego a little bit.
Yeah.
because Dean Smith has come in. He's put Sionchu straight back in the team, who actually doesn't look like he's lost any of his ability. So God knows why he wasn't in the team to start off with. Obviously, we've had Danny Ward in net for the rest of for the majority of the season. Everson looks, twice the keeper Ward is in terms of shot stopping. So you just kind of think, well, what was Brendan Rodgers seeing, and maybe his ego got in the way of his decisions a little bit, and it could cost us at the end of the season. I think Leicester as a whole have got themselves into the situation through poor contracts, poor management in terms of, allowing players' contracts to run down, not getting rid of them when they should have done and got money. You look at the likes of Tielemans as a massive example of that. As much as Tielemans has always been a consummate professional and has done as well in the past, I think we should have sold him 2 seasons ago almost.
Yeah.
And it's just been a constant rundown. He's now wearing the captain's armband, which I don't get when regardless of whether we stay up or whatever, he's got 4 games left in a Leicester shirt. Regardless of what happens. So there's no jeopardy for him there. There's a few other players as well. Also, like to mention the fact that Vardy seems to have picked up again with the change of management.
Yeah, you found that form, didn't he?
They seem to be playing to the way he wants them to play, but it just begs the question, what was kind of going on. But at the end of the day, we're in this position we're in now. Hopefully, obviously, Dean Smith and his backroom staff can keep us up. Do I think we'll stay up? That's the big question, isn't it? I honestly don't know. And I think as a Forest fan, you're in the same position.
Yeah,
we don't. I can't give you an answer to that because it is very, very 50-50 for both teams and for all the other teams down there. You don't know.
I think the only saving grace for you is that because you are currently outside the relegation zone, obviously with the same amount of points as Forest and Leeds, it's in your hands because of your superior goal difference.
Yeah, I think the goal difference has saved us. I think our defence is an absolute shambles though with the amount of goals we have scored and the amount of goals we've conceded. Because we've never not been able to find the net in this league season. I think we've got the same amount of goals as Man United. Do you know what I mean? And they're currently sitting in 4th. So it kind of shows you how well we've been doing going forward. So it's never really been an issue. It's just the defence has been shocking.
Yeah. Let's look at your remaining games then. Obviously, you have Fulham today. Then you have Liverpool at home. Then Newcastle away. Then West Ham at home. The final game of the season. Realistically, how many points do you think you'll get from those remaining fixtures?
I think best case scenario 7. And I'm not saying we will get that. I think best case scenario 7. I see us definitely losing at Newcastle regardless. I think we'll lose that game. I can see us maybe getting something out of the Liverpool game. I know Liverpool have kind of
it's strange. Liverpool are very hit and miss because I know they've won the last few games, but they haven't been convincing at all. Even against Forest, they were not.
No,
convincing.
and with that game being at home as well, you think the crowd might give us a bit of a lift. So I'm thinking maybe a point there. But again, on paper, you'd probably put that down as a Liverpool win. But that's why I said best case scenario. And then realistically, we need to win. We need to win today's game against Fulham, and we need to win against West Ham. But luckily, and I say I'm actually quite happy that West Ham are all but safe now with the win last night, because it means that they haven't got anything to play for on the final day if we need something.
Yeah, and also you'll be at home, so obviously having a home edge in one of the biggest, like the final game we've seen, is always a massive, massive thing. Like it can make that few inches of difference.
It is, but realistically, to sort of answer your question, how many points do I think we'll get? I think we'll get. I'm going to go with 6. I think I
think that'd be
see
more
us,
than enough for me.
Yeah, I can't see us beating. Can't see us beating Liverpool. I think we'll lose there, honestly. But best case scenario, get a draw. And I think we'll definitely lose against Newcastle, just with the form they're on, especially at home. I don't think we'll get anything out of that. I think it's just more for us. How can we limit the goal difference? But again, worst
Yeah,
case
I
scenario, I
think
think
you're
we'll
right
get
for goal difference, to
I
be
think
honest.
we'll get 4 points, and then is that going to be enough to keep us up? I don't know. Worst case scenario. I think we
Yeah.
will win. I think we will win one of the games, either Fulham or West Ham. But we
Yeah,
could
no,
easily lose one of those games as well. So
yeah, it's like a toss up, isn't it? So
yeah,
I think how we work this out is that we look at all the remaining fixtures of all of the teams and then go through it, and then we can talk about the other two games which are happening today as well.
yeah,
So let's move on to Leeds' remaining games. Obviously, they already played Man City yesterday and they lost. Good for us. So we only have 3 more games. They've got Newcastle, West Ham, and Tottenham. What are you thinking?
before their old manager got sacked last week, I'd have said 0.
Yeah,
I think with the fact that obviously Big Sam's now taken the helm, I think it is going to be too late for them. I can only see them getting a couple of draws at best. But I don't really see them getting many points. I'm going to go for 3 points, best case scenario. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they got 0.
yeah. No, I'd agree with that. I think that it depends what Tottenham they play as well. Like again, last game of the season they're playing at home, aren't they? So you know what it's like at Ellen Road. But that's where Forest, for example, has that disadvantage because we're away last game of the season. So
Yeah,
we'll move on to Forest shortly. But let's move into Everton now. So obviously Everton are playing Brighton today. Guessing anything from Brighton, if I'm being honest. How about you two?
I think to be honest, I think they'll be lucky if they get anything today. I think the way Brighton are playing at the moment and they're chasing Europe. The only reason they had a bit of a fumble against your guys a couple of weeks ago, simply it's Forest are a different animal when they are playing at home. I
Yeah,
think Forest are a
due to that,
very difficult team to play at home.
and I think that's been our downfall this season. Like in terms of at home, we're like we could beat anyone on our day. I think point proven when we got a draw to Man City, and away from home, if we go down, that's what's going to cost us. Simple as that. Let's move on to Everton then. So they've
I
got
mean,
Brighton today.
I know we're going to talk about Forest in a second, but just briefly, just to kind of put it in your mind, we were having a conversation. We've been hanging out this weekend, and we had a conversation on Saturday, didn't we? And I think you said something ridiculous like Forest have dropped 26 points from winning positions this season, which is crazy
we
when you
just
think
can't
about
hold
it.
on to the lead. I think that's exhibited perfectly when we're playing Brentford as well, where we're in control of a game and then one sloppy free kick and then the wall just split open. That's just unforgivable in my eyes. And I saw an interview this week that Steve Cooper has never been that angry after a game than at the Brentford game, which I'm not surprised about.
No, not at all, not at all. And I
We
think
threw
that's
it away.
yeah,
Simple as that.
that doesn't even come down to the manager though. That comes down to the players managing the game in those moments. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. No.
that was a heartbreaking loss for you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's a hopeful
Anyway,
closure, isn't it? So
going on
yeah,
to Everton.
go on to Everton. Obviously, we're playing Brighton today. I can't see them getting into it. And then they have Man City. Again, I can't see them getting anything from that. Then they have Everton. Sorry, what am I talking about? Then they have Wolves. And then they have Bournemouth. So they could potentially get some points from those games, couldn't they? Particularly,
Yeah.
again, Everton were at home last game of the season.
Yeah, I think it's weird because again, you're playing two teams that don't have anything to play for. So and Everton are going to be up for those games, and Goodison Park is a bit of a fortress at times. I mean, what I do tend to think about I'm just going to take a bit of a difference looking at the Forest fans and the Everton fans here. Both pitches are very kind of fierce to go to because the crowd are very close to the pitch. Right, so it's very kind of the fans almost seem like they're on top of you. So there is comparison there. What I will say with Forest this season is I do feel like the fans at home have very much been behind the team, regardless of the situation.
100%.
I think
Before every game, they clap Steve Cooper and give him the standing ovation, chant his name, regardless.
yeah, exactly. Whereas when you look at Everton, you look at the Newcastle game a couple of weeks ago when they lost 4-1. It's just as soon as Everton go down, there seems to be a very toxic atmosphere, and I think that comes from the fact they're not happy with their ownership. I think you look at Forest in comparison. I think actually to be where you are, considering where you were a year ago or a year and a half ago, like I was discussing, I think you are very happy with the current situation.
Yeah.
To have that chance. Whereas Everton, they shouldn't be down there. It's been mismanagement again from contracts, financial fair plays still to be talked about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They
It's
could be
all
in
very
trouble for that.
it's all very toxic there, and it's kind of led them to the situation. So I think where you take Forest, where everything, the atmosphere is what is potentially going to keep you in the league. You look at Everton's home form; it's not been great this season, and they've actually picked up quite a few away wins because I think they're away from that toxic atmosphere.
Yeah, 100%. So how many points? I'm going to go for 4 points because obviously we're not going to get anything from Brighton. They're not going to get anything from Man City. Wolves, they could get something, and Bournemouth again if they get something.
I'm gonna go 6. I think they win those last 2 games, unfortunately.
I was
Yeah,
going to put Forest in a lot of trouble. Okay. Well, I'm going to write down 4 because I think 4. I'll take 4.
yeah. I think for your own sanity, I think you've got to say 4, haven't you? I think it could easily be 4. It could easily be 3. Um, you know, I think there's going to be some shocks at the end of the season as well. I don't necessarily think they're all these games are going to go the way we think they're going to go, because teams are fighting for their lives. So I don't think every game that we've marked down as a loss or a win doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go that way.
Yeah.
But no, I think Everton have got themselves into this situation. Do I think they get out of it? I don't want them to. Quite honestly, if I could honestly say which teams I want to go down, I already said this to you. I'd go Leeds and Everton. If I could pick the 2 teams I want to go down, obviously I'm not going to pick Leicester for obvious reasons. But I think it'd be nice to also have Forest stay up there. I honestly would love to see Leeds and Everton go down. Don't think it might. I'm not sure it's going to happen. I think that one of Forest or Leicester could still go easily.
Yeah.
But ideal scenario would be Everton and Leeds for me that go down.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Forest, remaining fixtures for Forest, let's go through them. So Southampton, this is the biggest game of the season. We need to win. So I'm going to put down that as 3 points at least for the first game.
If you don't get 3 points, honestly, if you don't get 3 points tonight, I think that could be curtains. Honestly, I think that's how big the game is.
Yeah, 100%.
You need to, obviously depends on the results as well of the day. I think if Leicester and Everton have both got wins before you play, it then just puts massive amounts of pressure on that game. If you lose, you're pretty much down. If the results don't go your way.
Yeah, 100%. And then we have Chelsea away, so it could Chelsea just beat Bournemouth, but I can't see it. And we're away from home, so I can't see anything happening from there. And then Arsenal at home. My heart is saying we could get something, but Arsenal are a different animal, aren't they?
But and I'm going to give you a bit of hope here, but Man City are a different animal. You got a point against them, and you're fighting for your lives. I think your team's going to be up for it. I wouldn't be surprised, if you got something out of that game. I really wouldn't.
God, I hope so. And then Crystal Palace, and if we need a draw to stay up, I'll take a draw all day long.
Yeah, there's winnable games there for everybody. The games that we've gone through, I think, you look at Leicester, you've got Fulham and West Ham, who both haven't got anything to play for now. So you'd say those are Leicester's winnable games. You look at Everton, and you go, okay, Wolves and Bournemouth are probably their winnable games. You look at Forest, you go Crystal Palace, yes, Southampton, yes, winnable games. Potentially nick a result against Arsenal as well. So there's winnable games there, and points there. You look at the only team that the only reason Leeds have still got a sniff is because they've just changed their manager.
Yeah, 100%.
I think if you look at those fixtures on paper, you're saying, yeah, you're lucky if Leeds get a point. Honestly, if you look at those fixtures on paper, you're going, well, they're only going to get a point at best. So realistically, if you're looking at it on paper, who do you reckon's got the best chance of staying up on paper? Honestly.
So, paper. So, speaking of paper, I wrote down all our score predictions and how many points each team will get. Would you want to hear the results, Joe?
Yeah, go on then.
So, if Leicester finish on 4 points, well, we're on 34 points, that will keep them in third, 16th place.
Okay.
And then if Forest get 4 points, they'll go to 34 on 17th. And then Leeds and Everton will both be on 33. But again, anything could happen in football. Like, we could sit here and talk about it all day, but you just never know what's going to happen, do you?
You know what wouldn't surprise me, right? I'm gonna be completely honest. What wouldn't be surprising if one of these teams won the remaining 4 games. Oh no, honestly, that could happen. That genuinely could happen for one of the teams. So we're sitting there going, this is what we think they're going to get, but they could go out and win all 4 games, which then would put them on 42 points. Well, for Forest, Leeds, and Leicester, put Everton on 41 points. So do you know what I mean? It's still all to play for. You know, and I think you can. Quite honestly, you know, when it comes to my predictions, usually I'm very confident. I have got no idea what's going to happen. Honestly,
no, same. I think a lot of them,
no idea.
Anything could happen. But let's hear it from you, the viewer. How about you? Comment your opinions and score predictions and who's going to stay up, who's going to go down in the comment section below. Because we would love to hear it, wouldn't we, Joe?
We really would, mate. And I think it's just going to be squeaky bum time till the end of the season, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's the anxiety for today's games is already kicking in for me. I don't know about you, Will, but you're going to tonight's game, aren't you?
Yeah, I feel sick.
Yeah. I think
not as sick as I did for the playoff final.
Yeah, question for you, because this is going to be very interesting. Is, do you think it's better playing after the results have come in or before?
Before, because then you have added pressure, don't you? Because you know what you need to do. I know with Hurstbourne only what they need to do anyway, but psychologically, if they're saying, "Oh no, we only need to draw," like they might play that different now than they would before. Like for example, where it's like, "Oh, let's go for the win." Like it's so hard to predict.
It literally is. You could not define it anything else other than relegation day at the bottom of the Premier League today, isn't it? It's
yeah. Tell you what, Joe, this has been the best relegation fight for years, hasn't it?
It really has. I think you could say it's either been the best or the worst, depending on your disposition, because a lot of teams haven't managed to pull away. There's only been a few. There could have been more teams in it, but a few of them have managed to pull away sort of in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but I just want to give a massive shout out to Bournemouth, by the way, because they've been fantastically well. We all predicted at the start of the season they were going to finish rock bottom, and like they've just been on a different level.
We don't often say this, but I have to say this, and again, we're saying well done to Bournemouth, but well done to the backroom staff, well done to the chairman, well done to Bournemouth as a club for getting rid of Scott Parker when they did.
Yeah,
I think bringing in Gary O'Neill, and I can't believe I'm saying that, because as soon as they appointed Gary O'Neill, everybody's like, who? You know, obviously we all know him as a player, but as a manager, you're kind of thinking, well, we haven't really seen what he can do, but obviously
it's the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah, but knows the club very well, and it's obviously worked very, very well for them, and they've ground out results when they needed to. You know, very, very big results for them. They're going to get 1 year of more Premier League football, and it's 1 year more than a lot of people thought they were going to get. I think pretty much nearly everybody I came across, including us, put Bournemouth in 20th position. So, you know, it's been a really good season for them, and well done. I just want to, obviously, we talked about the relegation battle a little bit, just very, very briefly. Top 4. What do you make of that? Do you think Man U are going to struggle now? What's your kind of position?
After the result yesterday, no one saw that coming, did they? Let's be real. Like
no, they didn't.
Howler.
I mean, it was I don't really know what's like. I'm as an opposing fan. I've always been trying to defend De Gea. You know, I think he's a good goalkeeper, but when he does stuff like that, there's no defending him. I mean, that is just unbelievable, really. And
Yeah.
West Ham, fair play to them. They've now stayed up, and I think that they won't be in the position that they're in, like they've been in this season. Now, I think obviously having a couple of good seasons, they were in a bit of a lull, but they've got themselves out of it, and they can enjoy the rest of the season now, pretty much, as no pressure and just enjoy the games. Which I wish we were in that position. Oh God,
Yeah.
but
We'll
you
have to
know,
wait and see. I know the matches are starting soon, aren't they, Joe? So I'm just feeling nervous for it already.
Yeah, feeling nervous. Got the anxiety going, but yeah. Anyway, just to finish off, because I know it's been a bit of a short one, but I'm gonna do Joe asks, Will tells. Right. So I basically want to ask you this as a Forest fan, and this is all hypothetical, of course, because I hope you do stay in the Premier League. But I'm also gonna ask you to ask me the same question as well. If the worst does happen and Forest get relegated, what would you like to see happen? And in fact, we'll go both ways. If they stay in the Prem or they get relegated, what would you like to see happen to your club? Who needs to leave? Who needs to stay? What's kind of happening with Forest?
Well, if we stay up, I don't want to sign another 20 players this season. Obviously, we'll need to sign a goalkeeper, that's for sure, because we're both alone. Ideally, I like to sign Dean Henderson if we stay up.
Yeah.
And he's injured now, but I know he's out of contract soon at Man United, and they are looking to get rid of him. So I would take him every day of the week. I think we need to we have a good core of players. I think Steve Cooper needs to have a real hard look. And I know we've had so many injuries. I know we have a big squad now, but we've had so many injury issues. It's been unbelievable. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, honestly, so many. So I think we need to get our players fit again once we can, and we just have a real hard look of who's good enough.
I mean, speaking of that, just kind of taking a tangent, but Jesse Lingard, he's really not lived up to the hype, has he? He's barely been involved, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen glimpses of him, and then he gets injured.
Yeah.
And then he hasn't had that clear spell of it. But signings of, I know Morgan Gibbs White is an expensive player, but he's been unbelievable this season. I know he hasn't scored that many goals, but he creates so many chances.
You need a player to be, and what I like to categorise him as. Obviously, he's not got many goals, but he's a driver, so he's your engine in your team in terms of he's a ball carrier, which means he can literally take the ball from the halfway line and get you to the edge of the box where you can really hurt teams.
Yeah, and he knows how to pick up that pass. His passing ability is unbelievable as well. Like, he's got a real engine and that technical
and he's
passionate
passionate as well.
We've been missing. Yeah, 100%. And I think Forest fans are helping him in that. Like, he loved. I don't know if you saw the interview with Soccer AM, but he was saying like how good the Forest fans were, and it really like makes him want. He makes him want to like die for the team, if that makes sense, because like he has that. The fans give him that extra impetus.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. But if we go down, it's going to be interesting because a lot of players will not want to play in the Championship if we sign. There are a few who would, but I think they need to have a hard look at it. I'm going to pass it over to you, Joe. How about you for Leicester? What happens if you go down? Obviously, I think you'll sell Maddison and Tielemans.
Yeah, I think it's a weird situation for Leicester because I've said this for a number of weeks now. The actual position of the club and the players we need to sell and everything, it doesn't really like the. If we go down, we need to rebuild. Obviously, if we stay up, we need to rebuild. So there's a massive summer ahead for Leicester, regardless, because I think players like Tielemans, Maddison, even Barnes they potentially might leave if we stay up anyway. We will get more money for them if we stay up, obviously. So I think it's key that in terms of the quality of player we can bring in for the rebuild. I think if we go down, you then start looking at championship veterans, somebody, an engine to drive your team. We need to buy in. If I'm looking at the Leicester team, we need a leader anyway. But realistically, first thing I would do is go, right, okay, who are kind of those leaders in the championship, the ones that can kind of orchestrate the team as a solid captain. That's kind of my kind of one thing, and I think we'd have to look kind of maybe even in the lower leagues for sort of players we'd want to get, and the type of player we'd bring in is obviously is unbeknownst to me. I mean, I've not really looked at championship football since we got promoted. The only connection to championship football was obviously when Forest were there, when I was kind of talking to you about it. But I've not really not been looking at championship football that much over the last number of years. But I've got to get back and know what I'm talking about, especially if we go down. But it's going to be interesting because I think there's going to be a lot of players leave regardless. And it would just be how we rebuild. Do I trust the people at the club to rebuild a squad, to do a rebuild? I'm not sure. I think you look at people in the club like Rudkin, for example, who's kind of presided over the big contracts to players who don't necessarily deserve them. You look at players like Vestergaard and Bertrand, for example, complete waste of money. And you kind of think, well, who is going to take it over? How are the club going to operate? Is there going to be kind of changes in positions in the backroom staff? We're not even sure of who our manager is going to be regardless next season, because Dean Smith has only been contracted up for these last 8 games that he's taken charge of. So it's just going to be a very, very sort of weird position for us to be in. I personally would like to keep Dean Smith regardless of what happens. I think to have those types of people in the backroom staff, especially in the championship, I think we'd have our chances of going back up would instrumentally increase if we could keep Dean Smith.
Because he's had that experience, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. I mean, it's also not only that, it's, if you keep John Terry and Craig Shakespeare as well, I think we'll be fighting playoffs / promotion next season, regardless, if we can keep those. But if we do stay up, I think you keep them again because they've given us that opportunity to stay up. So you've got to reward that effort to keep us up. So I personally, regardless of what happens, would like to see Dean Smith stay at the club, just from what I've seen from the players as well. From what he's been able to do with them over a short period of time.
Yeah.
But I mean, talk to me after today's result. If we get battered by Fulham, I might not be feeling so.
Yeah. So on a scale, this is going to be the very last question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you for the remaining games?
12. I don't know. It's a difficult one because even if we win today, I know we're not out of the woods. It's a must-win game for Everton, Forest, and Leicester today. And even if we win, and I said this, there's a good chance that even if Leicester win, that Everton and Forest both go and win. You might, then you've basically just kept up the pace. Essentially.
It's just so nerve-wracking, isn't it?
We'll see what happens. We'll see what
happens. Oh, I feel sick.
What about you? How nervous are you feeling now? 1 to 10. I can hear it in your voice. I don't even need to ask you, really.
Yeah, I'm drinking green tea right now to help settle my nerves.
Yeah, he's already shaking. That was the tea shaking there. But fingers crossed both Leicester and Forest can stay up. It's still possible. So we'll see.
Wow.
We'll see. I just the end of season podcast is going to be interesting. If one of us gets relegated and one of us stays up, I'll tell you that.
It'll be the definition of bittersweet, won't it? Because one of us one of us will be best one, the other one will be sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Right, just one more question before we go. Last question: which team do you think's more likely of staying up, Forest or Leicester?
Leicester.
And I would say Forest. So it shows how confident we are in our own teams this season.
Yeah, we need to look after ourselves, and that'll look after everyone else.
Yeah,
Right
exactly.
then, Joe. I shall see you next time.
Yeah, see you next
See you
time.
on the other side.
See you on the other side. See you in a bit.